For sports lovers, football lovers in general, Premier League and Everton are household names. But Everton is facing an unpleasant predicament. The famous club is facing a relegation battle after years of top-flight football. Hey, what's going on, everybody? I didn't see you there. I was busy doing a classic YouTuber intro that nobody's ever done before. What it do? Today, we've come up with 5 terrifying facts if Everton's Premier League regulation becomes frighteningly real. Before moving any further, of course, like the video, subscribe to the channel, the notification bell, all that fun, totally not boring stuff. Let's get started. Everton is in a desperate position, still outside the bottom 3 and facing relegation, with a difficult series of matches ahead of them and their confidence way down. We're kind of wondering what life in the Football League might be like for him in the future. Now, first, the prospect of being relegated must have terrified Everton fans, as the club hasn't been relegated from the top flight since the 1950-51 season. That's 50 years ago, 70 years ago. I can't even math. However, the Toffees bounced back a few years later with a second-place finish in the 1953-54 Second Division, which earned them promotion to the top flight for the following season. For those who aren't familiar with Everton Football Club, Everton Football Team is a Liverpool-based English professional football club that participates in the Premier League, which is England's top flight. The club was a founding member of the Football League in 1888 and has spent a total of 118 seasons in the first level, missing only 4. Everton has been in the English Premier League for the second longest duration and is ranked 3rd all-time in terms of total points. The club won 9 league championships, 5 FA Cups, 1 European Cup Winners' Cup, and 9 Charity Shields. So let's look at the 5 sectors who's going to be most affected, according to us anyways. Everton, as we said, is an ever-present team in the English's top flight, so a sudden relegation to the second-tier championship, it goes without saying, it's going to have heavy repercussions. The further up you finish in the Premier League, the more money you earn. But this year, Everton is set to finish at the bottom quarter, which might wipe off up to £25 million from their revenue, which would put obviously a great strain on their capacity to meet their financial responsibilities. The most notable of these is Everton's extremely high wage bill, which is expected to be the division's 7th highest at £165 million, 89% of the total income, according to 2019-2020 records. Cost reduction has been going on for a while now, and it's expected that it'll be able to recuperate significant sums of money in salary from expired contracts and fees from projected sales this summer, but they'd have to go much farther. Everton argues that some of its players' contracts include relegation clauses, while others just don't. In the event of relegation, a side like Norwich would most likely implement a 50 to 70% pay cut. This is, however, because these clubs are traditionally placed around the relegation zone. However, if Everton players' contracts don't include relegation provisions, the club is going to be financially strained. Everton is going to have to split ways with Kazoo, its £10 million a season shirt front sponsor, this summer, and while work is being done in finding a replacement, a more lucrative agreement might be only achievable if they stay in the Premier League. Relegation frequently results in a significant loss in the value of such merchandise. For example, another recently relegated Premier League club saw the value of its shirt front sponsorship drop from £5 million per season to £850,000 per year in the Championship. Another issue would be the world's loss of talent, or the club's loss of talent. The club isn't the entire world. I know I'm a crazy soccer fan, but I have to remember. Football, clearly not a fan. Anyways. Another club issue is both Dominic Calvert-Lewin and Richarlison have a long list, and a very long list of admirers at that. Even if they're not relegated, keeping them beyond the end of the season could be difficult. However, logic dictates that Everton would struggle to realize the value of these assets if they were relegated. The working theory is that the price drops by about 50% in the case of relegation. Apart from these 2 clubs, there are a number of talented players who will look to get away from other clubs, or 2 other clubs rather. Keeping them in the club is, like I said, it's just going to be a challenge. They're going to put strain on them, and with strain, people leave. It's just how it is. Players who earn a lot of money but don't attract the same degree of attention from the other clubs are just another issue on this increasing list. Everton has a history of signing players on high salaries who are in decline, including James Rodriguez, Theo Walcott, Alex Iwobi, Moise Khan, Andre Gomez, and Dele Alli. And now it could make sense to sign a handful of experienced players. Bargains may be discovered in players who have failed elsewhere, such as Andros Townsend and Demarai Gray, but collecting assets with declining worth is really not a good idea. At Everton, nothing really makes sense. Everton has factored in the possibility of relegation into their planning and budgeted for a season in the Championship before returning at the first time of asking, as West Ham and Newcastle have also recently done. Both clubs' attendances and matchday revenues were unaffected by a season in their second tier, and in the case of both of those clubs, even though a possibility of USM securing a lucrative naming rights deal for the stadium is on hold. Everton can still be confident, though, that the other big names are going to be queuing up for the same. Even when the other naming rights remain a considerable asset, the possibility of relegation poses a lot of other problems. The financial penalty or loss as a result of relegation is likely to be in the region of somewhere hard to say, but $80 million in lost income? Again, roughly. They'll probably move on from a prize pool of 120 million to 130 million pounds to parachute payouts of roughly 45 million in the first year, 30 million in the second year, and 15 in the third year. The EFL profit and sustainability regulations, or salary cost protocols as they're now known, are now being reviewed. They effectively allow for cumulative losses of £39 million over 3 years, which is why player sales are under so much pressure. Moshiri has spent around €500 million on transfer fees since taking over the club in 2016. Indeed, the Iranian hasn't shied away from using his financial muscle to assemble a high-priced but underperforming Premier League team. According to reports, Everton is on the verge of breaking the Premier League's profit and sustainability regulations. Given the club's financial difficulties, Benitez, the then manager of the club, was only given €1.7 million to spend on transfer costs last summer. Everton's financial fair play situation will dominate most of the preseason talk. Most of it, anyways. Over the preceding 2 seasons, the club's losses add a total of £252 million, a lot of it exceeding the £105 million mark set by the Premier League for the 3-year period, or for any 3-year period at that. However, after being given planning approval by Liverpool City Council, investment in the Academy Stadium, and the day-to-day operations of their women's team, these are all excluded from the loss calculations. Everton might also deduct stadium expenditures from their profit loss calculation from the time the planning approval was obtained to the end of June last year. The cost is estimated to be in the region of $40 million. Due to their influence of COVID-19, the Premier League is also allowing for add-backs. In their most recent set of accounts, Everton attributed £67 million of their overall loss to the pandemic, and the club's been working for a much more stringent budget for some time now. They spent just £1.7 million last summer, while the January purchases of Nathan Patterson and Vitaly Mykolenko were almost entirely offset by Lucas Digne's move to Aston Villa and James Rodriguez, comfortably the club's highest paid player on more than £200,000, and Bernard departed for the Middle East over the last summer. Still, the impact of COVID-19 remains, and the relegation would expose the club to even stricter measures in footballing environments. If relegation occurs before the stadium at Bramley-Moore Dock is constructed, it's going to be a significant task. Despite the impending financial drop due to the suspension of its USM sponsorships, the club is optimistic that the new stadium is going to be completed and delivered. Everton has had productive discussions with potential investors for the private investment that'll make up a significant portion of the stadium's finance. The announcement of a subsequent agreement, though, might have to wait until Everton's Premier League status is actually determined. If the team is relegated, JP Morgan and MUFG are going to be unable to put the same contract on the market, and the club is going to have to pay for the project with its own funds. So, what are your thoughts on all this? Do you think Everton's actually going to get relegated? Let us know in the comment section below, ya goofy goobers. That's about it for today's video. If you did enjoy watching it, standard YouTube fare, share it with all your friends, wear it on your back and run through the streets. I need this video to get out there. Nah, I'm just messing around. Yeah, so subscribe, notification bell, all that fun stuff, and click on the other videos on the screen. I think I covered all the checkboxes on the YouTube outro list, so I am out. Later.